back to the farm. I thought, since we're getting off to a fresh start, I would give you a tour of where the garden's at so far. Pardon me, I have to watch my step a lot more now. As I said, I haven't been able to get out into it as much as I would like, so it's still pretty wild. We started cleaning some of it up, and this afternoon we're going to be harvesting garlic and getting started on harvesting the potatoes. But I will show you that in a minute if I can get this gate open. All right, we're kind of going from worst to best, and this section of the garden is the worst. I have not touched this all season since we did the planting, and it's a nightmare. So this is the bed the cabbages were in, and you can see the cabbages are still here, but they're really crowded with weeds. So we need to get into this bed and clean that up. This bed is the cauliflowers. I see one cauliflower there that's already gone past, but most of this is all weeds. So again, I think this bed is toast, and we're just gonna weed it and clean it up and plant it to cover crop. And finally, this bed had the broccoli in it. And again, you can see we've got some little broccoli plants in among the weeds. There's a good looking one over there. We also have a lot of potatoes still in this bed. I planted potatoes in this bed year one, and they're still coming up here. So we need to get that all cleaned up, and again, plant it to cover crop so it doesn't keep being weeds, and we'll turn it in. This side is where the peas were, and I swear to you, almost none of the peas germinated. You can see, here's one. And I planted these twice in both these beds, and nothing germinated. I'm not sure why or what caused that, but it just was not my year for peas. Okay. This bed was my lettuces, and you can still see there's some coming up there, which I need to thin. The rabbits got into this. They found a way through a couple of gaps I left under the shed and got in here and were munching away. So that I kind of sacrificed. I did come in last week and clean this little patch up here, and those are bok choy. Once they get a little bit bigger, I'm going to thin those out. I need to clean this whole bed, and especially right now that when we can't trust lettuce, I need to get more lettuce planted in here. I have some lettuce started in the house for a winter bed, which we'll get to in a little bit, but I would rather save those for that other bed. And again, clean this bed up, maybe plant another round or two of lettuce in here, feed it really well, and keep it going until winter comes. This bed is mostly, you can see my chard and kale are doing pretty well. Again, this bed needs a good cleanup. I've got a thistle in there I've got to get out. I just found out that thistles are perennials, which is really going to suck. And I do have a pepper plant right here. We had one extra pepper plant that I didn't have any place to put, so we tucked it in here. So we'll see if we get any peppers off of that. I had a lot of volunteer borage come up, and this has been really beautiful to have, and obviously it attracts the pollinators really well, but it does take a lot of space. So I think next year I'm going to have to be more choosy about letting these grow. This is my beet bed, and in amongst the weeds you can see the beets seem to be doing pretty well. Kind of long and small, but that's okay. So again, if I get this cleaned up and give them a few more weeks, hopefully they'll head up a little bit more. The cucumbers at last are doing really well. They were very slow to get going, but I have a good couple of pounds of cucumbers in the fridge right now, and I need to get a couple more, but then I can start doing some pickles. And the melons, well, they're growing, and they're taking pretty well to the fencing. Oops, excuse me. But I don't see anything fruiting yet, although I do have some flowers here and some more flowers over there. So again, this just needs a quick cleanup and maybe a mulch. Definitely a feeding, and that'll be good to go. This nightmare, this is what I want to be the winter bed. I need to clean it up really well. Again, I've got a thistle in here. We got to get that out. And then I am going to put my winter crops in here, mulch the bejesus out of it, and put hoops over it to protect it for... It won't keep all winter. It just gets too cold here to have it be an all winter project without me doing heavy plastic tarps and maybe even heaters. But if I can just extend my season a couple of weeks and have, or even a month, and have it start earlier in the spring, I'll be really happy. Our first frost date is September 15th. But last year, we didn't get our first frost until November. So it's a fine line growing in this part of New York State on whether or not it's actually going to get that cold or not. So we'll wait and see. This bed is the sweet potatoes, and I don't know how sweet potatoes are supposed to look. Ones I've seen online have been just packed, and that's what I thought this would be. It would be a good cover crop, but it just hasn't taken off, and it had gotten very weedy. It's gotten weedy again. We cleaned it up last week, and the grass has all come back, so I need to clean this up again. But I'm just going to leave that until the leaves all die off, and we'll worry about it when we need to. The tomatoes are doing really well. We do need to go down the middle of each of these beds and pull all that grass out. And this one obviously needs cleaning up along the edge. But I've got lots of good looking tomatoes coming in. It looks like there's even an orange one ripening right there. So I'm looking forward to that. We stuck a couple of snapdragons in here just because I had extra snapdragons and I needed some place to put them, and the tomatoes hadn't come up in some of these spaces, and I'm going to keep doing that in the future because it's just really pretty to have those pops of color. I did that as well in the pepper bed, and the peppers are looking pretty good. We did have to do some weeding, but it wasn't as bad as some of the other spots. This bed, I planted 18 zucchinis in, and I got one plant. I don't know if it's a zucchini or a summer squash, and I haven't seen any fruit on it yet. Although let's take a quick peek. I do have some flowers. Oh, there's 1, 2. A lot of male flowers, but there's a couple of females in there, so I am going to take that. It looks like this is a yellow squash, so not my favorite, but it seems to be what comes up here. I was going to bemoan my bean failures. We planted these in May and nothing germinated. So 2 weeks ago I planted them again, and then we had a week of rain, and I thought, oh, that'll be perfect. That'll get the beans to germinate. Absolutely nothing. So I was going to come out and bemoan not having anything, but we have beans coming up. There's one there and one there and one over there and one over there. So I'll give those another few days to get a little bigger so I can identify them. Then we'll mulch the crap out of that bed. The potatoes are either blighted beyond salvaging, or they're just really done for the season. So this is what we've got to get in here and start trying to harvest, and cross our fingers that we actually get harvest out of them. These ones are gone. These ones are going, but we've got a little time on those. This was the melon bed, and you wouldn't know that I planted any melons in there at all. So we need to clean this up and plant it to cover crop. These potatoes are gone, and those are going pretty fast. So those need to get dug up. It's kind of a time-consuming project. So if we can just get 1 or 2 beds done this afternoon, I'll be really happy. The onions, it's hard to tell. I think they're almost ready. These ones from seed sets. The problem with using seed sets is in that onion's brain, it's their second year, and they're supposed to bloom on their second year. So a lot of these onions are blooming, and while that may be great in a steak restaurant, it's not so great in the garden. So I need to get some of those up. We'll pull these up, clean up the beds, and again, get them planted to cover crops. The garlic in here is ready to go. Ugh. I'm worried that I left it too late, and we're going to have some rot issues, especially since we had so much rain in the last week or so, or that the heads will have started opening up. So we've got to see what's going to happen with that. The sunflowers never sprouted. Again, some stuff I just had terrible germination on this year. So that needs to get planted to cover crop. Again, we've got grass in the paths we need to get cleaned up. And then this is the other batch of garlic. It is long past ready to be harvested, so we need to get that up out of the ground. I was really disappointed because we had planted so much corn. Well, I say we, my friend Raina had come and planted so much corn in 4 of these beds, and nothing came up except for these. So I do have maybe a dozen corn plants coming up here. I'm really happy with these. If nothing else, it'll give us one nice meal, hopefully, and some good decorations for the holidays. And you can see, well, it's easier to see in this bed. This is one of the beds that didn't germinate well, but all these potatoes that we missed in last year's harvest are going great guns, and I have that in the last 2 beds on that side as well, just going bonkers. So even though I didn't get corn out of it, I'm probably going to get lots of potatoes out of it, so it's a trade-off. I'm going to have so many potatoes this year, I'm going to have to see if I can find anybody who wants to buy some of them. Unexpectedly, I think my biggest success, which makes me incredibly happy, is the winter squash. It is just going everywhere. It's going into the garlic, it's going into those failed corn beds, and if this is the only squash I get out of this garden this year, I am going to be ecstatic, because the Blue Hubbards are my absolute favorite squash. And I have quite a few of them coming in, and I also have a bunch of spaghetti squash coming in. So we are in, I am really, oh, there's the other Blue Hubbard in there. I don't know if you can see it. And you can see the vine is going all the way back towards the fence, and through the fence on the other side. I actually mowed the end off the other end, but there's a squash coming on the other side of the fence still. You can see way over there, there's another summer spaghetti squash coming in. So I'm very happy with what this is looking like. So it wasn't the year I had hoped for, but I also didn't attend to it. So it's the best I could have hoped for. It's not a complete failure, and it's not done for the season. I still have stuff I can do. You can see I'm still hobbling, but I don't have the boot on, I don't have a brace on, and I don't have my crutches. So I'm fairly pleased with how I'm getting around. Granted, I'm holding on to anything I come across just to maintain my stability. So we'll get there. We'll get through this season. One thing I'm kind of excited about, it's not something that I did intentionally, and that's one of the joys of gardening, is what volunteers. And these are mallows. And they have these beautiful little flowers. And all of it, the flowers, the leaves, the roots, are good for any kind of throat issues. They're mucilaginous. And you can dry all those parts of it and then just steep it into a tea whenever you've got a cold or a cough or whatever, and it helps. So I'm excited to have that. I've got a bunch of comfrey in a couple of different places that I need to harvest and get soaking in olive oil to make an oil of that I can use for making some healing salves, as well as the calendula that I have up front that are those beautiful orange and kind of peachy colors. Those are looking really beautiful, so I need to get those harvested. And you can do that from dried flowers, but you can also do it from fresh, at least from some of the instructions that I was seeing. Hang on, gate problems again. So I'm really happy about that. So we'll get those going as soon. I'm actually out of olive oil, so I need to make a run and get some more of that. This here, that you can see getting blocked out by the burdock, is an elderberry that the previous residents had planted here. And this is the first year it's bloomed, and it looks like we're actually going to get a few berries off of it this year, which I'm very excited about. I don't think it's going to be enough to do anything with, so I'm just going to dehydrate them and save them for whatever I might need it for. Believe it or not, this looks better than it did. We had thistles growing really thickly all through here and behind the tractor. So we got those all cut up, and you can see the piles here and here. And then Xander came through with the weed whacker to do an initial cut down. I need to get the tractor out of there and put it out on grass out here. That's where we're going to put the chicks when they get fully feathered out, so they can get used to being outdoors and these guys can get used to them. And we need to move the goat stand, because one of the things I'm hoping, this week is fair week for our county, which is always a lot of fun. It'll be Xander's first county fair, so I'm excited to take him to that. But the folks that I bought the sheds from and the coop, Big E's, always have exhibit space there. And I want to ask them about moving the chicken coop over to that side somewhere so that the door faces the rabbitry and the big shed. Because the biggest problem I have in the winter, when I have to come and feed them every day and give them water every day, is this hill. And it's not so bad in the summer, but it's a bear in the winter when you're trying to haul 50 pounds of chicken feed up a hill. Now last year it got better because I had the sled, but I would rather have it like behind where the goat stand is and facing into the yard so that I'm just walking everywhere on this flat, and if and when I get a snowblower, it'll be really easy just to do one long path up to the rabbitry and do short side chutes off to that shed and off to the chicken coop. And then I'm not climbing hill all winter. I'm hoping that's not going to be too expensive to do, but we'll have to see how that goes. As I said, I've been working on cleaning up the upper pasture and the paths, so you can see that path going up the hill and this open area here, and there's another path going up this way up to the remnants of the beehives. Something got into the beehives that I left this spring and ripped one of them just apart. There were frames all over the ground that have been getting rained on all summer, and nothing's left inside, so I need to get that cleaned up and stored in the shed. That's the fall projects, are getting this cleared out. I need to build a workbench at this end to store the tools and have a space to work in the winter. I need to get shelves put in on this end to store any of my beekeeping stuff and the chicken supplies that I need to keep, especially the fences. Oh, that's the other benefit about moving the chicken coop over here, is then I can put a permanent fence around this area. Now I probably won't do the whole thing. I probably will do from the coop all the way around. Well, I have to figure that out. I'll do it up that way and up this way, and then use some of the temporary, oh, that doesn't help you at all, does it? Do up along the creek and then along where the fence currently is, and kind of end just beyond where the coop is now, and use some of the mobile fencing to block that end off in the winter. And maybe remove it in the summer, or so that way if I need to, I can use the temporary fencing to double the size of the outside run. As you know, I've been letting the chickens free range this year, which has been great for them. They've been very happy. As you saw the damage, it's giving the run a chance to refresh itself, if you will. Although there's nothing growing in there that I would want to be growing in there. But the problem has been finding the eggs. They are laying them all over the property, and I'm not always finding them. So that isn't a huge problem because I haven't been able to sell eggs, and I'm not the only one who's having a hard time selling eggs this year. So, so I don't necessarily need a lot of eggs, but it's hard. So I may get to a point where I need to think about penning them in permanently, but then you have the issue of having a crappy looking chicken yard because the girls scratch the hell out of everything. So I'm still struggling with that. I've got a couple of trees there in the run that are currently fenced in that I thought had died off, but it looks like they're okay. So I need to get those fences down, get them weeded really well, mulch the heck out of them, and then fence them back in because the chickens will scratch at the roots if I don't have some kind of protection around the base. As they get bigger, I can do away with some of that and just put rocks down. But for right now, while they're still young and vulnerable, I've got to protect them a little bit longer. And that's kind of where we're at garden-wise. So we'll come back this afternoon and do some harvesting and maybe some cleanup. And we'll just try and keep poking along at getting stuff salvaged over the next couple of weeks. Like I said, we're only 6 weeks out from first frost. So it kind of feels, there's part of it that feels pointless. But at least if we take it back now, we won't have to deal with it in the spring. So, what's up, James?